This is the all-new Brackett Show. Brackett Show. And now, here's Chris Brackett.
I'm dog tired, boss. I'm dog tired. I feel like I have just been beat up and put away wet.
I know you've been out there a lot.
I feel like my deer are dead. I don't know what I'm going to do. I might have to turn this into a fishing show or like the perfect way to nap on 60-degree days when it's raining.
I like that.
Like what else to do besides hunting? Because I'm a little defeated, man. I'm pretty down in the dumps, defeated, and you know it's time to get jiggy and like kind of reset. Even as I'm headed here today, I get a picture of a neighbor that's like, "Look at this, man! That blind you sold me is awesome." It's like a 157-inch 3.5-year-old that I went good. Like you give him the thumbs up at the same time, like
yeah.
He was just a baby. He was just a baby guy, and he's giant. You know, he's got big split brows. He looks like a deer named Shredder, but he's big and wide. I think I had this young 2-year-old deer with superstar potential running through the yard in January, headed to where this guy killed it. And the neighbor just sent me a picture. It said, "Hey man, best blind ever. Thanks for setting up that shadow hunter or whatever." And I was like, "Oh no, this is the guy next door. You know, like 3 doors down." And it's been very defeating. Long Duck Dong, rest in peace. He's dead.
Oh, man.
The neighbor got him.
Oh, man.
It's the neighbor that I call the fence-sitting neighbor. The fence-sitting neighbor is a fence sitter from way back. His stand, literally, if you've listened to the last, kind of pods last year or whatever, the problem that we all have, and all of us managing, is always going to be the permission piece of property, which means they just don't have as much vested as you do maybe in your $1 million property that you work your tail off just to pay the taxes on, let alone all the stuff you put into the whitetails. You always have one farm that has, that person that's been hunting or got permission 30 years ago, or it's a different situation, and they, how could they not hunt right next door? But I always have a problem with people sitting directly on the fence. I talked about a little bit in one of the episodes that you got to give the deer time to expire, right? Like people that sit right on the fence, where do they expect the deer to run and die? Like even if you double lung a deer, Chris, with a nice broadhead, a big cutting sharp broadhead, and you're hunting with a bow, normally it's 100 yards that they'll run, no more than 200 to bed down or pass away, right? Sure. And so you kind of have to pre-plan, back off you listen. You have to kind of back off and give the deer time to expire. And when you don't do that, you just kind of set yourself up for a neighbor like myself to be very by the book, on the line about stuff. So the other day, the last time we did this pod, what was that date on that? Do you even know? We call it a pod. We call it a show. So
yeah.
when was the 9th?
The 9th? Well, the 9th.
10 days ago.
Yeah, on Saturday you're talking about?
On Saturday,
yeah.
Yep. So Saturday, we had filmed the episode, and this is before we filmed the last one. I was still after this dang deer. So the 9th is when I filmed all these bucks. And coming down to the water, we talked about all that. But 9 o'clock in the morning, when I was watching this other buck, 200 yards from me, the neighbor was sitting in a ditch or on a stand. I don't know where yet, but on the line somewhere, and ended up killing Donger, 7.5-year-old buck. And it was, it's been something I had to deal with. I don't think it's necessarily the deer this time, because this deer didn't live on me directly. He loved to live north. And so with me not getting west winds and it set up for the neighbors to have a better access, because this year's been completely backwards, and he ends up killing the deer. Now I don't know any details. I didn't hear about the deer from him. I didn't hear it from the horse's mouth. I heard it through the neighbor, sending pictures around. I don't know if the deer died on me and he came over trespass. I don't know what happened, but it's really hard when you have 2 years of trespassing from the neighbors that hunt that side, whether it be the other gun hunters or whatever. But I had the first time I ever met the gentleman that's hunting there, he trespassed on me, walked all the way through my entire sanctuary, and then came around to the house and was like, hey, I shot a deer. And so I've had my run-ins with him where I've just said, oh, well, let me track this deer. He wanted to give up. I kept tracking the deer because it's what I do. And I got him close, and he missed the deer at 10 yards with his bow 2 or 3 times. And I had to keep grabbing the arrows and getting the broadhead set up and then shoot the deer. So there's just a lot that play into the credibility or the who the person is that's hunting next door. I don't know them as anything but this neighbor and then X name, right? And so my problem is the first time I ever met the neighbor that's got a permission on the side of me he is a permission guy. Number 2, his stand and his camera are sitting 15 yards and 10 yards from my line of my CRP with the fence down. And the first time I ever met him was at my door going, hey, I hunt this stand, and every time I shoot a deer, it runs onto you. You're telling me the problem already. How do you handle it? First time, you're like, okay, let's go get it. Second time, which happened last year, was like, I had 16 bucks. They all came off your hill. They jumped the fence. I shot them. They ran back onto you. I know he's dead. 160-inch deer. Never found him. Trailed blood for 200 yards. Never found the deer. I showed him pictures of the deer. I said, what do he look like? I said, I don't know. Blackout, right? So I'm going to write that down. This is something I wanted to talk about today was blackout. All my friends and everyone I know, they just pull triggers. They don't know what the deer are and they black out. So you need to slow your butt down, slow your roll and know what you're shooting at. People, you're killing me here. But that's what happened. I blacked out. I don't even know. It was 160 giant, right? And I trailed them through my switchgrass and nothing. That happened last year. And I warned them, I'm like, hey, you got to move that stand back. You got to quit cutting through this pasture. They didn't give you permission. The son didn't give you permission. Luke didn't give you permission. You got to come in from where you got permission. You got to hunt it that way. You can't screw this whole block up because, we've got something that we're trying to accomplish here. So those were the warnings. And then this year, I don't hear anything about it. Of course, I don't hear anything about it because I'm going to tell them no. Why would you tell me, right? So I hear it through the neighbors. Long Duck Dong is dead. He didn't score what I thought he would in the pictures. I could tell he had broke brows and I had been seeing him. But the night of the 8th at 1:00 in the morning, I had him on my property and I watched him turn around in the video and walk out of my life forever and never come back on the property. But that tells you, I really believe that I gave this deer my 100%. The days I could have killed him, I played it safe. You guys know that that's my routine to play it safe. And the days that he's standing in broad daylight in front of my stand, I chose to hunt this deer from this main one stand all season and not invade. I could have very easily got permission to go around to get to this area where I knew where he keyed in on, and it just didn't. I didn't want to push in. I'll be honest with you, Chris. I didn't want to risk screwing it up because the winds were so different. So if anybody is listening to this and you're being a good boy, you're hunting smart, you're hunting on the edge, you're hunting on the outskirts, you're being very, very disciplined. I want to tell you, I'm doing the same thing, and it just cost me a deer, but that is okay because I know that the future is a pocket full of sunshine, okay? I know it is, okay? And this is the Brackett Show, and I'm having a nervous deer breakdown today because I feel like all my neighbors have killed all my deer. I feel like the deer I know are alive will not come out and play, even at night. None of the cameras are telling me anything. I feel really discouraged. I feel like I should just go fishing at Rockbridge Trout Place. I feel like I should go down there, eat some of them big giant pancakes, and shut off my phone and fly fish for trout for 3 or 4 days. Shout out Rockbridge, Missouri, one of the greatest places on the planet Earth to catch 5 and 10 pound rainbows and eat food and stay there and just get away. One of my favorite places, Chris, on the planet.
Yeah. Well, that sounds awesome.
It's 6 hours from here.
Well, and it's like summer weather right now too. So.
Yeah, it's 60 degrees. Why not go trout fishing?
It's crazy.
But here's the greatest part, dude. the food plotters out there, the people that are in the same position as me, they feel like the neighbor got shot their deer. Big Ray from Genesis Wildlife Group in Owego, New York. He just got his buck killed on the neighbors. Hey, that's great. Hopefully they mount him. Even Jim Shockey, Winnie the Pooh. He talks like Winnie the Pooh a lot. Hey, 100-acre woods. Do you know who Jim Shockey is?
Yeah, that would. I mean, if we were to, if we. Whoa,
are you? You're in a tunnel.
What is happening?
I don't know. But even Jim Shockey's like, well, I'm going to go hang out. And it's like, I saw him online and he's going to do all of his frou-frou stuff with his new girlfriend or whatever. But even his bucks are dead. So I feel like this is a pattern. I feel like everybody listening right now, big buck success, ups and downs. I think that's what we have to call this episode is big buck success, ups and downs. I think maybe too many people were listening to the last two episodes with the lockdown, how to deal with the lockdown, and then how to run with the zombie walk, because a lot of big deer died.
Yeah.
A lot of big deer got seen by hunters. They may not have killed those big bucks yet, but I think just having a show like this and advising people like, hey, take 1 or 3 of these days off, the 13th, 14th, and 15th, which we talked about in the last episode, was really just a matter of you take off and you dedicate these 3 days to hunting big bucks, and you're going to see the zombie walk for real because of that 48 hours for that full moon. And that's exactly what we saw across the country, and we made real believers out of Uncle Bubby's, Chris Brackett's, Sergeant Slaughter's little zombie phase, moon phase walk thing, you know. And it's not because of I know what the red moon's going to do or I know what they're going to do all the time. That's the misnomer. I get questions every day that's like, bro, what are the deer going to do today? I don't know, man, but I know what they're going to do 48 hours in front of a full moon. Other than that, I don't know what they're going to do unless they start showing me what they're going to do on a feeding pattern or whatever. And that's what I want to talk about today is like the success, the ups and downs, and then like, what do you do after you get beat? I feel like I've gotten beat by the deer, but I did kill Boots, a 7.5-year-old deer at 7 yards, 5 yards. I feel like I have had some success. I know my clients have had the most success. Chris, good luck to him. I know he's still looking for his buck. He lost it in an open cornfield, Chris Utter, and a lot of my clients have had a lot of success. One of my guys in Wisconsin's been tagged out since early, and he's just been passing deer just to watch them. And then my buddy Brandon in Tennessee's got to be close to pulling the trigger. I think he's just been killing ducks or so. But Sam's had good luck. A lot of success that I just haven't posted a lot of. And then there's just new people with stories like you wouldn't believe. Like I'm listening to the show, The Zombie Walk, and it is real. And then all of a sudden, he's like, I'm in the middle of listening to it and I end up killing the biggest buck of my life, or I saw the biggest buck of my life. And, we were talking about the sex bowls and where the breeding takes place and all of this other crazy stuff. And, I think that all of it was such good information for people overall. All the messages I got. Thanks for all of the messages, all the ones I seen. Even if I just put awesome or thank you or, some short message, it's hunting season. I just wanted to reply to make sure that I replied. But yeah, follow us on Facebook and Instagram, Chris Brackett Land Life, or you can go to brackettshow.com. You're listening to episode 16 of the Brackett Show. And this is where you call in with questions. You call in with sometimes just weird stuff that you just want to tell us that it's successful and the zombie walk is real.
It is real.
And it is real. And why it's real, we'll go back and listen to some of the other ones. But we're going forward here. We're going forward, upward, and we're going forward with, let's do a wake-up call.
Yeah.
And then I've got a whole list of stuff that I'm going to work in here. And next episode is firearm Orange Army. I even brought some of my orange to wear, and we're going to talk about like strategies for, gun season. every state has a gun season. Illinois is coming up the day we drop the next episode. We're going to be getting prepared right now, so I'm going to talk about that next. Hit me with a wake-up call brought to you by Hunting Day Coffee Company.
Wakey.
For hunters, by hunters, Hunting Day.
Hey, Chris, it's Dave from Maryland. I was just wondering, with everybody seeing your shows and seeing that you know, doing the stuff to your property that you do, putting food plots in and everything, do you ever have people recognize the location, like where these farms are? And do you ever have a problem with trespassers, people trying to sneak in that they're seeing the deer that you're showing? That's basically my question. Just, do you ever have a problem with trespassers / poachers coming in on your property? Love the show. Love the podcast. Thank you for educating all of us. Have a good day. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, man, that's a big deal. Thanks for that question. Well, here's what I can tell you. Between me and my crew, to get past one of the cameras going off, and at least telling us, there's quite a few of us watching, right? My people that help me, the people that hunt it with me, we're all watching cameras. These are cell cameras that take pictures. So the answer to the question is, you got to have big cojones to go after kind of a trespass situation on most of our properties. It happens every once in a while. We have what's called a poacher's cove, where if somebody is going to trespass, that's where they're going to do it. The neighbor has been busted before. I've sent Leo, the game warden, out there. He's busted them. Case in point, a lot of places where the cameras sit, a lot of people wouldn't look for them. They sit out in the middle of the field. They sit out in like an invisible kind of a stick deal. We have a scenario. Let's take this scenario, for example. Just because I'm not hunting it doesn't mean that I'm not observing it. Number one. Number two, we had cameras sitting there, 2 of them in this sector, and we could see somebody get up in a tree stand, got pictures of them actually climbing up in the tree stand. And then all of a sudden the buck walks out. This is late winter when people get desperate and the deer are on these standing beans. The next picture is a buck coming out. Next picture is a buck running away with blood coming out of him. Another picture down the way, the same buck running. So I know where his blood is. And the next picture is a guy standing there looking at the camera like, oh crap, I got caught. So I turned the camera, I turned all the pictures in, the timeline, the buck. I trailed the buck. I couldn't find the buck. And then we named that Poacher's Cove. He got hit with fines and his brother. And I was told that they're not hunting there again, but I think I know who it is. And I think the game warden wouldn't tell me who it is because they didn't want me to retaliate. But I know they got tickets and I believe they got kicked off, but they absolutely have not trespassed since then. A lot of times we will just prosecute, and I'm known as the mean guy in the block, right? Like, I'm known that we just don't mess around with trespassing at all. Ironically, back, like 15 years ago, 20 years ago, I'm talking to my neighbor, and my neighbor's like, I got a buddy that evidently said that you were trespassing. And I was like, yeah, I don't think I was. Then remember, this is back when times were a little different. Things weren't posted. There wasn't that much bow hunting, and you could kind of go wherever. It wasn't a big deal. Everybody knew everybody. It's not like it is today. And I said, show me that picture. He's got a picture of me trespassing, because trespassing technically is not having written permission in your pocket with permission to be there. I don't have my bow. I'm not hunting, but I am walking, and I'm walking in a neighborhood next to a place, Dave Sheeline's place, where I hunted. And I went into this other wood lot because I believe Dave said he was thinking about buying it or some weird thing. And so he's like, go look at it. So I went and looked at it. Well, I find an illegal mineral block in the woods, which is illegal. And there is a picture of me first walking by it. Second, me standing there peeing on it. I'm peeing on the illegal block in the woods, going like, pee on this. And I did it right in front of the trail camera. So first off, they're being illegal. They don't know that they didn't own it. They just hunted there. So they think I'm trespassing, right? But technically I probably was because I didn't have the written piece of paper. I was just told to go look at this piece. And then so I see the picture of me, dude. This is on developed 35 millimeter camera pictures. I found this out and got to see the picture of myself 25 years ago when I was just a young buck. So kind of funny story. I have a different mentality. One, I'm a believer in the Almighty, Yahweh, Jesus. I believe that everything that I'm doing, I know the evil in the world. I know the ill intent in human hearts. I have it. I don't try to act on it. But I do know that it is definitely more effective for me to post pictures and to educate everybody on on what's happening in deer because it's for my living. Where I don't think I have as much trespassing problem because I'm not hunting 200-inch deer. I'm hunting really smart older animals. If I can't kill them the way I'm hunting them or I'm passing them or whatever, first off, if I'm already passing them, you got to try really hard to get in there to kill these animals. And a lot of the places that you could kill these animals, I think would be hard for somebody to trespass and get them killed. Like, what are you going to do? Like roll into my field next to the park and, shine a flashlight out there and then shoot one with a rifle? Like, I'm your least of your worries. Like, does that make sense? Like, all the county guys, all the city guys, all my neighbors, they all know my truck. They all, collectively we're watching, our farms all together. The odds on somebody being able to pull it off in a situation where you're going to shine a light or poach a deer at night, there's a backside of the farm. You could definitely do that too, but then you have to drive down dead end roads to do it or whatever. Do I think some of it happens? Yeah, maybe. I would say most of it happens. Poaching part of it is what we were talking about sitting on the lines and then getting the deer off there and then trying to recover a deer. I think more of that is the trespassing part. I have no shame in putting all of my pictures out there, all my locations out there, because if you're going to do something criminally to me, I can't stop you, right? But I can protect my family. Like, the one thing I know is that I know how to protect my homes. I know how to protect my farms. I can't have any more cameras. I can't have any more weapons. And if I'm a big dude and I'm pretty alert. I mean, I hunt every day. I'm pretty alert on what changes in my environment and what I'm seeing and what's going on. So, the only time that I ever have problems are normally people that don't mean harm. They're just idiots. Like, I've got somebody next to Marquette Heights in Pekin where I've got a guy ride a four-wheeler every once in a while. And right now, if anybody's listening, don't drive through there and trespass anymore because there's a big harrow. There's a bunch of tractor equipment hidden in the grass that have big shiny points on it. Like, letting you know, if anybody's listening in Marquette Heights, don't be driving your four-wheeler on people's property that you're not supposed to be on because there are harrows and other farm implements in the grass.
Yeah, well, and besides the fact that it's illegal, being on someone's property that you don't know much about, like, that's risky.
It's risky, but it's a farm, and I have farm equipment in the grass. Don't drive there. They're going to pop your tires, right? I know where they're at. I'm keeping them there. I'm putting them in locations specifically put there to deter anyone from driving in and over, around. No different than railroad ties. You just can't see these as well, right? I'm not going to put up a wire that, try and vindictively do anything. I'm just keeping people from going there. The next phase is the fence I have sitting in my yard. That's a big topic. Do I put fence up all along my north border at my farm to keep people honest? Keeping people honest. What do you think? What do you feel about that, Chris? Did you get rid of your echo?
Yeah. The listeners won't even know that happened, but
it sounded like he was in a tunnel.
Yeah, I didn't talk for a while because I was like, "What's going on?" Yeah, I mean, so we don't run into that exact issue where we're at, but we do somewhat.
Well, we were having that discussion about the election, about whatever, and I said a lot of things with me being a Republican is just a very simple fact that I just want to keep my rights and just stay off my land. A lot of the other stuff I don't even care about, right? So it goes down really simple to me. And he was like, and you said, I don't know if that's true. And I go, well, I do know that the trespass law that people can't make you leave. Like there was people living in the Bass Pro Shop because they couldn't make them leave up in Bolingbrook or one of the suburbs because they came on the property. They can't make them leave because of our law in Illinois. So I just have a problem with simple stuff like let me keep my guns, let me stay on my property, let me govern my own state, which is my own property, and that just opened up a conversation. So how do you feel about? For me, it's a safety thing. For me, it's 100% safety. I am liable if your butt trips and falls and cracks your head on a rock, and by you're trespassing, you mean ill will and you're trespassing. Or even if you're lost and I don't have it posted with purple paint and signs, which I do, and says, hey, don't come on here. This is owned by private property. Please don't come on here. And so that's all the stuff that I do. What is your opinion on either people coming on to affect and have gain by them coming on here and steal or rape or pillage or whatever they want to do on the property, or are they just lost and it's just a farm? We'll just take a walk. Like where do your stance on it? Where do you think some other people feel? I know where I'm at. Which is like I don't go on other people's property.
Well, yeah, I mean I don't go on other people's property either. But I do think it obviously there's layers to that conversation. Certainly people shouldn't go on someone else's land. I mean like that's a pretty obvious thing, but like I know some people who are kind of like I can't control what you're going to do so I played, this is years ago, I played a show in a church. We set up the day before we were playing this concert. And their policy is they never lock the doors to the church because they're like, if someone wants to break into the church, like we want people in the church. And I was like, but we have like
equipment.
We have expensive equipment that it's set up.
Kind of the same thing.
And it was and they're like, well, what's going to happen is going to happen. I feel like don't be foolish. Like, you know what I mean? Like I can understand that perspective, but so like where I fall is like within reason, use logic and follow the law, and like also like if you need to take measures to make sure like stuff's not stolen, or in your case someone's sneaking onto your property and either damaging anything or potentially putting themselves at risk or hunting your deer. I think that you have a right to do what you can to protect that. At the end of the day, you can't prevent everything, and you just kind of you do what you can and kind of leave the rest up to God and just whatever happens. Mm-hmm. That's kind of where I fall. Like where we live, we don't have obviously land that people are hunting. It's like a bunch of lawn.
They have to purposely come here to do harm.
Yeah.
Or for some purpose.
Yeah.
Mine, they could get lost, but I just feel that we need to go ahead and put boundaries at a hedge of protection. And then if somebody chooses to break that is on their own recognizance, but they also have to deal with what happens. Like if I'm planting corn and sweet corn and I have fish and I have, I have apple trees and dude, you want some apples? Come to the front door. I'm easy to get a hold of. You can call the landline right now, 309-761-5263. I mean,
I hope that someone calls and is like, I was thinking about trespassing on your property, but I was wondering if I could just come and get some apples.
I had that yesterday.
Yeah.
I had that yesterday. It was like, hey, can I book the Airbnb and bring my bow? And you're like, no. No, you can buy it.
At least he was honest.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's me. I'm a hedge of protection guy. Don't come on my land. And if you really need something, you come ask, right? If you come to me and say, hey, I shot a deer and I was 100 yards away from the property line. And my intention was for that deer to die before. I made a really good shot. He just didn't. And you came to my house and said, hey, man, here's some trespass money, right? I know you paid for the corn and the beans and the whatever and this and that. Here's some trespass money. I know the deer's dead. Let's go find it. That would go a long way, dude.
Yeah.
That'd go a long way. Number two is, here is my, if you let me come get this deer and help me get this deer, I will give you 20 hours of labor, work, concrete. Guy owns a concrete company. Said he was going to help me with my concrete. Never did. Never kept his word. Already caught him trespassing. How do I know that this guy is on the up and up on my line? I don't, and I don't trust him. And I don't trust his family because I don't trust him. And I don't trust the other guys that hunt there during gun season because they're just permission people. But half of them, I know that they don't have permission. So I'm going to put this warning out here. I know the game wardens. I've reported on the game wardens that this is a problem property, that those people better have their T's and their I's crossed and dotted, that they better have a permission slip, a piece of paper that has signed with the landowner's name and gives this person and only this person or these people permission, and they better have that on them, because if they don't have that on them come this gun season, when that game warden drives down that dead end road, they're going to get a ticket, period. They're going to get a ticket. There's 4 landowners at the end of this dead end road that's back behind me. If you don't own that property, you have to have a written permission slip that says this person right here, and I'm sending the game warden there this weekend, because everybody better be legal if they're hunting. And so, you say, well, that's a little unfair. Is it unfair for me to say this is a problem situation, and for me to say, hey, if you're making your rounds, will you please keep this block honest? Please come check me. You check me all the time. Please check me at my house and then check this whole block, because I want to keep this block honest, right? So if they're out there listening, better make sure you have that piece of paper that says, I can hunt, and this person signs it, and this person's name and date and everything, because you have to legally have that to be able to trespass in that property to hunt.
Yeah.
Do you know that? Yeah. I don't think most people know that.
Well, I mean, they do now.
They've been warned. Warning, if you're on a piece of property and you don't have that written stuff, Leo, get them, Leo. Get them state police. Like anybody, you have to have that. So if you don't have that and you're going back out to a piece of property, yeah, we may live in 2024 and you can get a lot away with speeding and doing a lot of stuff and whatever, but you better not be messing around with that one, because if you're in the wrong block where people are putting a lot of money and a lot of time, a lot of effort into it, and the rest of the block, the rest of the block is participating, and you're the outcast and you're the one always getting caught on the cameras, and you know who you are. These guys know who they are. I have preached it, and my neighbors know who they are, and we know the pickup trucks, and we have the pictures of the bucks in the back of the pickup trucks, and we have all these things, and they've been building a case for a while. So if they're listening and they show up out there, all they got to do is get them for one little thing, and it opens up the rest of the stuff for the last 2 years, because the statute of limitations is 2 years. So 2 years ago, you messed up and you killed a deer and you wrongly tagged it and you got them on property and you pulled it off there. And we know it. The game warden knows it. They know the documentation. We've got it all ready to be right there. So if you show up this gun season and your I's aren't crossed and your T's aren't dotted, you're in trouble. Yeah. That's the warning. I don't think I'm off on this.
You aren't off on that. You are off on the I's crossed and your T's dotted.
I wanted to see if you were listening.
Paying attention. I'm here.
My eyes crossed.
Your eyes are crossed.
But that was the warning. I know the good neighbors, they'll have it. They'll have all their stuff together. I know the bad neighbors, we're just going to be keeping them honest. So if you're hearing that, they're going to get smoked. They're going to get smoked.
See, when we started this, before we started filming, you're like, man, I got no energy. I'm way laid back. But now you're fired up.
Yeah, man.
It was the wake-up call. It did it.
I'm a little mad.
You're woken up. All right. Well, hey, we're going to get into some questions. I did want to remind people, if you want to call, which we've gotten a ton of calls, which is great. But
we love it.
Yeah, you can call the landline at 309-761-5263. Right?
5263 stands for land. Yep. 309-761-5263.
Awesome. Well, here's a call.
Okay.
Hey, Chris. This is Kobe from Michigan. Hey, I was wondering, my dad just shot a buck in Illinois, and he was using a crossbow with a G5 expandable broadhead.
Don't like G5s.
And he shot it, made a pretty good shot, double lungs, a little bit higher, but it was a good shot. And the arrow went right through him. We went to the site, found the arrow, and there was zero blood or any evidence on that arrow that he hit the deer. But there was blood at the site. We ended up found the blood trail and found him within probably 100 yards of the tall grass. I was just wondering if you've ever heard of, with a crossbow, he shoots a raven, having an arrow go through with no evidence of hitting the deer. Thanks, buddy.
What do you think?
Well, I'm not a G5 fan, never have been. And the reason why is there's a little trough. I had this conversation a couple times this week. On the G5s, there's a little trough that they lay in, okay, that these blades kick back in. So you got like mega meat and this or that. We don't know if this isn't a fixed blade. Fixed blade would zoom through pretty fast. I haven't found a G5 broadhead that I am scared of. Does that make sense? Like, I want to be so scared to handle that broadhead because it's so sharp.
Yeah, you were talking about that, like with the beast broadheads.
The beast, I'm still scared to death of them. And we've had incredible luck with them. Every broadhead can, fail in a point where we are the ones not making a good shot. But I have never had a point. Well, I have never had a point where I went, this did not hit a deer. This zipped through so fast. The only thing that I can think of is, I don't know, that it went through really, really fast. But the G5s, in my opinion, on the expandables have this little like track system. On your blinds, on your windows, they've got like a little track system that you can pull the shades shut and they sit in there. That blade has to slide in that slot. You know how when you pull your shades, sometimes those things can kind of get stuck.
Yeah.
The only thing I don't like about the G5s is because they sit in this track and they slide back and forth. It's the only thing I don't like about them. But as far as being slick and going right through there, no, I've never really heard of that.
Because I think he said he got the deer, right? Like he found
he got the deer. He hit the deer good, evidently. Normally, if you hit the artery at the top, that artery is blood soaked, like Jared from Hunter. He shot a deer, and it was the coolest thing. It was the brightest red. Looked like it had been dipped in red paint, and it was covered in highly oxygenated blood from the artery. So I know this wasn't an artery shot because they're normally everywhere. The only thing I can think of is it went through the top of the lung so fast that it just was clean. Sometimes I think there's a coating. I wish somebody made like a coating that you could spray on your arrow to make it kind of tackier. That would help hold blood that it went through to see there. But I do know, a shout out to a product, even though Dean wouldn't send me any, there's these little gut patches that you can wipe on the arrow to find out if it has gut matter or just blood on there. I forget what they're called. I carry some in my truck, but they're little, looks like a little dip can that's in there. It's got little patches and it'll be like, you just wipe it on the arrow or wipe it on the blood, and it'll tell you if it's got enzymes in there from guts, which makes you back out for 6 hours, or if it's just straight up blood, you can keep tracking it. A lot of times you'll just look at blood and you want to find out if there's a compression kill, like, the diaphragm that lays, by the liver there that makes us breathe, voluntary diaphragm, involuntary diaphragm. These things compress our, lungs and our heart and everything to, your heart's pressure, the blood pressure in your body when cutting an artery or whatever, it sprays out because it's a pump station disconnect, as Uncle Ted would say. The lungs are driven by the diaphragm and they are compression as well. What I want you to pay attention to, since we're talking about blood trails and expandable or broadheads and shooting a deer, here's what I want you to pay attention to, especially as we get into gun season too. I had my friend call me the other day and sent me pictures of a blood trail because I've seen millions of them. And I looked at the blood in the leaves and he said it went 150 yards. We couldn't find it. And, he showed me the video, and I instantly said, that's a meat hit, some type of meat, muscle, blood, water dripping off the body, not compressed, spurting out like an artery hit. Pay attention to your blood. If you have blood just dripping down the sides, it's a good indicator that you hit muscle, you hit organ, you hit flesh wound, you hit liver, you hit something that's not pressurized. When you have pressurized, don't look for bubbles. Bubbles are a non-indicator because bubbles could be just off of the hair. The hair is porous and holds air. And so a lot of times you'll get air bubbles from blood just dripping off the hair. You want to be looking for spray or, the deer's running down the trail, and if it's sprayed 2 or 3 feet out on each side or on one side, you have compression. You have pump station disconnect, as Uncle Ted would say. Heart the same way, lungs the same way, artery the same way. And pay attention to that blood. If you have just dripping blood, you're probably in the shoulder, probably in the muscle, probably in the liver, probably in the guts, and you're going to be able to tell how much time you need to give that deer. Stop walking to the arrow. We have had people that have been messaging us because of the zombie walk and the success they've had with guys that said, hey, what do I do? Do I leave this deer alone? And I said, well, if you want this deer, man, you can't go back in on this deer. You have to give him 6, 8, 10, 12 hours to be septic. They know that they hit them back a little bit. And we've had a lot of success stories that said, thank you for reminding me to just be patient and back out and continue to do that. Like he's like, I just remember you praising, to not go pick up the arrow. And so I still say, just don't go pick up the arrow. Don't be a fool. Don't go toward the animal. And these gun hits that you guys, some of you guys are in gun season. These gun hits, these slugs are not made to expand and kill. And they don't move fast enough to vaporize the lungs like the way a rifle does. So when you're you're shooting slugs and you're shooting straight wall cartridges, you have to make sure that you're letting, whatever that is, like this is not vaporizing or causing big giant cuts like a broadhead. These bullets are made for accuracy, not for killing. So give these deer some more time. Do not go look for that deer for 6 hours, man, 3 hours, 5 hours. Give it some time. Stop getting down and just going over and looking for blood. Stop being a jackass. Like you have to. Like we've got to take another question because if not, I'm going to get on my high horse and I'm just going to start berating people to stop looking for their deer.
All right.
Go have lunch.
Chris, love the show. Love everything you guys do. This is Nick from Southern Michigan. I had a question about swamps. I hunt a lot of public land and a private parcel that has some swamp ground to it. And just wondering your thoughts on the deer movement through swamps, if large mature bucks spend the majority of their time in swamps other than feeding and breeding, of course. Mm-hmm. But just want to hear a little bit about your thoughts on swamps. The public land has a lot of pressure, so I find myself getting deep into those gnarly swamps and have had some success. But yeah, just something I haven't heard you guys talk about. Love the show. God bless. Thanks.
We had one kind of like this one before. Swamps. Here's your 411 on swamps. I'm going to look at a swamp like a thicket. I'm going to look at a swamp like a topography change. I'm going to look at a swamp like an impenetrable situation. A lot of times yes, the bucks will go through the water, but they're also a creature habit. If we're in a place where a buck is 100% in his brain, like I'm trying to evade Charlie and Bob and, Carlos that are hunting me, I'm going to go into a swamp. I'm not going to move. I'm going to be somewhere where there's a little bit of dry area and muskeg type stuff, right? If I'm chasing does, I'm going to go back to the fact of where I'm going to try to find a location that I can get in and use like this is where I wish I had like a whiteboard or something.
We'll work on that. Season 2.
Okay. So the swamp itself, I can't speak for like 100 acres of swamp, right? But I'm going to guess again, if there's 100 acres of swamp, there's going to be a couple areas that change topography that are more like little dam areas or higher ground. I'm going to be looking for those to be funnels. But I think what I want to do is I still want to look for my predominant wind. Michigan's still coming across from the Lake Michigan and the Great Lakes, and our winds are still going to come out of the west when we get the fronts. This year has been totally opposite. Mother Nature makes me look like an idiot talking about west winds all the time because we just don't get them. That is still those are still the predominant killing winds with the high pressures. We've had to figure out high pressure and east wind and still get deer killed the last month. But when you're looking at swamps, man, and this goes for the guys out west, this goes for the guys down south, those swampy areas, no different than Illinois, you're going to want to hunt the downwind side of these swamps. And what I mean by that is it's just a topography change, no different than a briar thicket or a honeysuckle thicket here in Illinois. You're just going to go on the downwind side. You're going to stay on the downwind side. It doesn't matter if there's rubs. It doesn't matter if there's scrapes. They're not in that phase right now. When you're in this phase right now where they're still looking for those does, they're still locked up a bit. They're still chasing, getting pushed in from different places. If other hunters are pushing these deer into the swamp, you want to be the one on the downwind side of that swamp where the deer have to go around kind of the last base thicket of that swamp. So just get on the downwind side of these swamps and sit it out. You're going to see that buck trying to catch the wind of the whole swamp. Like, takes too much energy for him to go and pick through a swamp because he sinks in the ground and he can't pick it apart. But there's one thing you can do. We were just talking about barbecue ribs before the show. I can smell your baby back ribs cooking at the front of the swamp or in the middle of the swamp or the little dry humps of the swamp. If you're just in there hiding, Chris, cooking some baby backs on your new smoker, I can go downwind of that whole thing and make one little cruise and cruise back and forth, and I can tell where you're at because I live there, right? Like, that's what the buck lives there. He knows where the girls are at. He knows what bucks are in there. And to reaffirm that, I took my wife the other day out to the Blind Turtle.
Yeah, how'd that go?
Really good. I say we play this clip over it. You can see this buck coming down the field, sees the other deer, and this deer's upwind, and this deer is coming by the Blind Turtle. We're hanging out in there, and she's got free rein on any 8-pointer really at the farm. And here comes this 8-pointer up the field, and she just kind of enjoys them. She doesn't shoot them. It's kind of like, you want to shoot them? And she's like, meh, I don't really care. And this buck comes by. Here's the cool part. This was the first time my wife, she's killed mule deer and black bears and been on all kinds of adventures. She's kind of not in that phase of her life anymore, but she still goes with me. This deer gets 20 yards upwind. Here he comes just upwind down this field, and she goes all of a sudden, and I can like, there was an audible change in her that she's like, I can smell him. She was 20 or 30 yards away, maybe further. And the deer was directly upwind. This is a 4-year-old 8-point, 5-year-old 8-point deer. Illinois buck, and she could smell him. He was so full of that rut smell. She's like, I've smelled all the deer our whole lives, hanging from the tractor, hanging from the garage. I've smelled that ruddy smell on them, but I have never smelled a live one upwind of me that smelled that much. And it was a instant for any hunter, let alone her, to pick up on that without me telling her, where she went like, I can't believe they smell like this. I'm like, well, honey, they are goats. They literally walk around the woods and pee on themselves and are mounting these. They're not taking baths. Like, they are stanky. They've been doing this for a month, and they're fighting and slobbering, and they got stank all over them. Who knows what else, right? She smelled him from 30, 40 yards. So picture that doe smelling sweet, smelling the way he needs her to smell. And he's picking apart the entire social herd by the downwind side of this thicket or this swamp. So this goes to all you boys in Virginia and Maryland and boys and girls and whatever, and all these hilltops and all this stuff. Find the thickets, find the swamps, go on the downwind side, spend 3 days on that downwind side. Even if you're not seeing a lot of deer, when you see the deer, he's going to be the man, and you're going to get a crack at him. You can rattle down on the downwind side of these thickets and these swamps too and bring these deer out. But like Bobby Kendall and me were talking about, anytime you call or rattle, I had a day where I rattled in several bucks. I saw 9 different bucks. I think it was last Monday we talked about on the pod where I rattled in these bucks, and I got a couple stories with that. But these deer are paying attention audibly. They're paying attention to the smell, and they're trying to get downwind of you. So anytime you rattle, anytime you call, you realize that you're bringing attention to yourself. I'm not a big caller. I will call in certain situations where I have the thermals and the wind and the everything in my favor, where I think I can get the deer killed before he gets my wind. But I don't like bringing attention to my location unless they're upwind from me. Then I rattle. So, I was rattling, Chris. The other day I was sitting on a power line in a ladder stand. I was overlooking this whole area, and I had a bunch of bucks come out chasing a doe, but they really didn't care about her, but they felt like they should be chasing her. I had another buck that had a big 5-year-old, and he had one little, like a fist on one side. He was all broke up or just didn't grow like that. And I thought, you know what I'll do? I'm going to go ahead and hit the rattle horns. And instead of me taking real antlers, I just been taking this like heavy bag, which is like made by HS. It's just a little bag I can put in my pocket or like wear around like a sash. I was wearing a deer at Rattling bag sash.
Yeah, that's what we call it,
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Chris Brackett deer sash.
The deer sash by Brackett Industries.
There we go.
It's something Bomar would probably make. Bomar Archery, deer sash. It's got all these.
We can partner. We can partner with him or something
for sure. He makes all the fun stuff. So I got it hanging on the tree. I go ahead and hit the thing, and I rattle and I create the sequence. It's pretty windy, and like I waited about 3 minutes, and I can see a long way. So if there was something, they should have popped out. At least let me see them. And then I was like, you know what? I'm already standing up and ready. I might as well take a pee. So, this is one that people want me to talk about out of a stand too. So I just go ahead and let it rip. So I got my hand on my bow. I got everything hanging out. I'm going pee out of this stand. Here's what's crazy. It was such a crisp day that the wind was just at about 3 to 5 miles an hour. The sound of my pee at 20 foot hitting the ground in the leaves made a sound that I believe coaxed a deer. This is a wild story. Coaxed a deer out of hanging. Like he came into the rattling, was in the brush somewhere downwind. And here I am peeing out of the stand, making this peeing sound. And at the same time, smelling the pee and being wound up. The buck actually comes in. I'm peeing, and I look down, straight downwind, and here is this buck smelling the whole way in, smelling this pee, hearing the sound, and I had just rattled. So he was so into the game that the rattling wasn't enough to bring him in, but the rattling plus the urine smell plus the noise of it hitting the leaves and the pee sound, this buck creeps up, goes underneath my stand, standing 5 yards away from the pee. He turns his head real quick, and I go, brr, and I just grunt, brr. And he snaps his head back, looks past me, goes around into the brush around me. He's 10 yards underneath my tree. Here's a 5-year-old deer. It's awesome. And he just kept looking around. He could not put it together. Now, he didn't freak out at my smell. Something about that urine and that sound convinced him to come out of the brush going, I don't just hear fighting. I smell urine and I hear the sound. There's got to be bucks doing buck things. And here he come out of it.
Yeah, it's probably because you've been eating the same thing as deer for the last few weeks. You've changed your diet, so everything smells the same.
Listen, I'm an old man. I'm on testosterone, so I did just dose. I take 0.6 every 3.5 days because my levels were like under 200, and they want them at 8. So, this is where it all gets kind of fun, biology and all this stuff is like, I've told you again, my deer are not afraid of my farmer smell, right? But it was also a high pressure day that 20 foot up in the stand, my actual human scent was going over him.
Sure.
But the pee, right? Like the pee, he had to have smelled male testosterone, whatever, in this pee, and just convinced himself to come check it out. Like there had to be a fight. Like there was something different. Very fascinating to me that happened right there.
So once again, if you want to call in, if you got questions to ask, if you want to tell us about your stories of peeing from a stand or whatever, please, you can call the landline at
309-761-5263.
Yeah.
And while we're here, let's give a shout out to the White Gold boys.
Awesome.
White Gold from Michigan. We've had 2 calls from Michigan already. The Michigan boys up there making some incredible seed and packaging it with this one right here is my Clover Rush. Get ready for Clover Rush to go down and frost seed this spring. I like to frost seed this Clover Rush about March into grass or other food plots, and the frost seeding at about 20 pounds to the acre. I use twice as much when I'm frost seeding because the birds will eat some of it. The freezing and thawing will go down. It's the easiest food plot you can do. They have White Gold Clover Rush. They have Fort Knox switchgrass. I just have an incredible video of switchgrass, the way I recommended to put it down for a client, and then frost seeding our competitors' switchgrass, and the Fort Knox switchgrass from White Gold outcompeted your normal regular cave-in rock and frost seeding practices. If you're looking at doing a little frost seeding, some switchgrass, don't do that. Do the clover. I can teach you on this spring how to prepare, where to put switchgrass borders and how to prepare for switchgrass, and look forward to those. And make sure you're subscribing on YouTube. Make sure you're going and subscribing on whatever platform you're listening to the Brackett Show on, because there will be tips and tactics on how to plant the switchgrass, how to plant the Clover Rush, how to plant the gold. What do we got? Gold Fever. That's my Brassica blend, and all kinds of really cool stuff. So, go check my boys out at whitegolddeerfeed.com. You can also find all of our sponsors and all of our help on brackettshow.com. All of our episodes are on there. And then information about the consulting that I do. I've already had some guys that have been interested and have booked consults for the spring, where I come in and I help set their farms up to where they are getting the most bang for their buck, really, by spending, $5,500 to $7,500 on average. You can really revolutionize your property. I'll also show you how to get that money back out of your property and resale, and in whitetail, what I call whitetail equity that you are gaining by spending the $5,500 to $7,500 on the trip for me to be there and coach you through a year of planting and perfecting your strategies and doing all this. You're going to build your property by 2xing to 10xing that whitetail equity that you're putting back in by me coming to do a consult. So, and then I might as well give the lowdown, and then we'll just keep going with the show. But while we're talking about this, the lowdown makes this happen too. It's from Hunter's Mate, lowdownviewer.com. This is a great way, a fast way. This is a tablet that you can have a save card that's with high capacity for your images. This is a very fast way to check your SD cards on cellular cameras and regular cameras. You just pull the SD card, put it in here, view them, save the pictures that you want to save to your bigger card, play them on your HDMI cord that goes up to your camera in camp, so you can show people shooters and what aren't shooters and different locations. This is a great tool for anybody managing whitetails. Really cool. Comes with this little, protector case. I keep it in my side-by-sides and my truck. And when I'm out there, and if I don't have an extra card, I can just throw the card in there, download the images to the bigger card, and look at them when I get home. Format the card and stick it back in the machine to not only format and get the highest level of capacity on the format, because if you don't know it, you need to format before sticking a card in any camera. And this is a surefire, easy way to do it. So that's the Lowdown high-speed trail camera viewer. And the website is at brackettsshow.com or lowdownviewer.com. Let them know that we sent you.
Awesome.
We got another call.
Yeah, let's get back at it.
Okay.
Hey, Chris and Chris. This is Chris from Wisconsin. Love the podcast. You've done a great job, and
thanks, buddy.
Couldn't have come along at more of a perfect time. I've been losing interest in some other podcasts that seem to have changed. They used to be mostly hunting insight and have changed into something else.
They're trying to sell you something.
That being said, the deer calendar is based off daylight, not dates, correct? but we use dates for almost everything related to harvesting mature animals. The question is, with the Wisconsin 9-day rifle season landing on the last week of November, does that change anything in regards to overall buck harvest with the tail end of the bell curve, or is it the same as always? Trying to teach my 3-year-olds my property lines, but it's been hard, and it stresses me out. The neighbors are capitalizing on all my hard work.
You know about that.
If you could give out
I think we all do.
a quick shout-out to my neighbors and remind them that a penny earned is a penny well spent, and maybe a little prayer for my up-and-comers that I've grown from day one, it'd be much appreciated. Thank you.
My man is in common ground, and he is misery loves company. So, the 3-year-olds, they won't sit down. The 4-year-olds, they won't sit down. And, boy, I got a lot of questions for God when I get there. Most of them I probably won't care about, but out of my relationship with him, I talk to him all the time about it. How can whitetails be so fun and so hard to keep alive and to keep doing stuff like you? I don't know what to say, Chris, but I do know this. The white-tailed deer is as close to me being a sinful, broken man as anything I could ever think about describing. I know that. Do we have this gentleman's name?
Oh,
Mr. Wisconsin?
We'll
call him Mr. Wisconsin.
He's the official mascot of Wisconsin.
Okay.
Mr. Wisconsin.
Mr. Wisconsin and me are dealing with the same thing. But every time, this is what I want to remind them. Bring God back to the center of everything. We do this for the kingdom. We do this for to make sure people know they're not alone. The way he looks at his 3-year-old deer and I look at my 3-year-old deer is literally the way that God looks at me, like, why won't you just stay where it's safe? And you're like, no, because I want to. I can do it myself. And it's like, no, I got you. Just stay here. And it's like, no, I want to go play on the neighbors. It's like your boys like stay in the yard and like, I want to play in the street. They're going to be boys. Where do I start here? Do you understand what he's saying?
In regards to the neighbor, or talking about like the season?
I think we have to address the first part of the season, right? Yeah. It's strange. I have 100 acres. 100 acres is the one that I always go back to because it's a very reasonable situation. To correlate to a 60 or a 150 or what, it's a very good slice of the pie, right? So look at Illinois gun season and where it's falling this year. Ours as well is later. It's always the weekend before Thanksgiving, right? But a lot of times it falls right now, Chris, and Mr. Wisconsin. It falls right now.
We could look up his name,
and
it's more fun calling him Mr. Wisconsin.
It's super is, and he'll probably laughing. So right now, it normally falls for our gun season, which is a lot of locked down animals. And we haven't had any cold yet. Do you remember last time it was 30 degrees? Do you remember?
Well, we had like 1 or 2 days where it got cold, like a week, 2 weeks ago.
November 1, and a lot of deer walked and a lot of deer died. It was cold. It was frosty that first morning, right there around Halloween. Right up. Remember, we had warm spell, and then we just had this cold front, and we had one in October. Listen, bro, these deer this weekend, huge. I'd love to do a really good Trump impression or something, but these deer are going to get slaughtered because of the cold. So, Mr. Wisconsin, it is about cold first, right? If it's cold, a buck will get out of lockdown and do fun things because they just do. They love weather. They love cold. So if it's going to be cold your last weekend a gun, your last weekend in Wisconsin or whatever a gun, it's just going to be tough. Here's what we got to think about. In my situation right now, what I'm worried about this weekend with gun is my deer have had no pressure and they've been running all over and we've been passing them up. I don't think some of the gun people will because it's more about tradition and killing a buck and taking it to the buck pole or going down to the Ace Hardware. I was talking to somebody Josh this week, and he was like, one of my favorite things to do in Wisconsin is to go see all the bucks come in on the buck pole and whatever in camp. So I really think that traditionally having the gun season fall later, you are going to actually have a little more of a slaughter, a little more of a taking of the animals. If you can, it's not that I'm stumped, man. I just really don't know how to explain the fact that like Wisconsin and here later on in the year, the deer are going to start keying in on food. I think we got to go back to what I have on my list here, which is these deer are about ready to hit food. Anytime they're ready to hit food, they get more on a pattern. Anytime they get more on a pattern, they're harder and easier to kill. I'm gonna hope that Mr. Wisconsin has a lot of food on his place because these does are going to load up on food. I think that we as conservationists and people that are managing our farms more, we have to sacrifice during that gun period and hunt our borders to keep people honest and to be able to more be out there and enjoy it. No reason to not enjoy it, but my number one priority during gun season for me in Illinois is to be on the property and try to enjoy it, because why should just the neighbors enjoy it? I'm going to try to be on my edges, keeping them honest, number one. Number two, I am going to stay out of my thickest, best areas during gun season because I don't want to push those deer my influence. My hardest part about my deer dying was, did I push that deer off for him to die? And I know for a fact that I didn't, because I was in really early. I know I didn't push any deer off, and I know I saw plenty of bucks that day. So I think we have to go back and trust what we've done. Here's what I can tell you about trusting what we've done when it comes to the level of management that I do. I have to bet on the deer, and I have to bet on the fact that the deer that before my program was in place, those deer are still going to wander. The deer that were raised on my place with plenty of food and plenty of cover and no stress will 7 times out of 10 correlate back, even at 3 years old, will correlate back to the thicket and the security. And the reason why is more does, more social. We want to distract those 3-year-olds to spend more time on our farm because our place should be stacked up by gun season. Like this week, our place should be stacked up. I've noticed 10 times the amount of deer right now this week leading up to gun season than I have last week. And I have noticed by taking out those 2 larger deer that the other bucks, the 3 and 4-year-olds, have been everywhere on my farm, where normally they're running wild and they're searching for girls. I have all the girls right now down along my creek and then up in my pines. And they have also, there's a lot of stuff here that goes into this calculation. I noticed yesterday a lot of my farm fields around me, my bean fields, had anhydrous on them, which means they're putting chemicals on the fields, which means the deer don't want to eat there. So I think leaving the property alone ahead of time is a big deal to get these deer to go in and start getting on a pattern of food and cover, and apply a little bit of pressure on these buttholes. Like, I applied pressure last night. I'm going to apply pressure probably tomorrow on my properties. I'm going to go around to all my borders, and I'm going to go make sure my signs are up. I'm going to go put a little pressure on these deer so they are kind of reminded where the centralized location is. And then I'm just going to keep an eye, and I'm going to enjoy my hunt, but I'm going to hunt my edges of my property just to keep other hunters aware that I'm out there, just to keep them honest. And I think the 3 and 4-year-olds, if I'm going to take a guess, Mr. Wisconsin, that you are in the last 3 years, you have really put some hard work into your food plots and your structure on your farm. And you're at about year or 4 of doing this, 3, 4. you have to trust that the deer that are now alive and are running everywhere, that they know where their core area is. And you have to trust that. Right. And that is where I'm at, is I have to trust that these guys are not going to leave my property or the bucks that are older, that were older, that did not have, aren't spoiled, didn't have a spoon in their mouth. These bucks that didn't have a spoon in their mouth, that are spoon fed like my younger deer, those deer are the ones that predominantly want to wander. Goes back to the fact that I think Don Higgins does say it. You have to kill a deer on a place that a deer spends the majority amount of his daylight. And if these deer spend the majority amount of their daylight on another farm, that's just something we can't deal with. So your homeboys are going to stay home. Your other guys are going to leave. Don't do anything to help the neighbor. The best thing you can do is kind of go on the downwind side of your property and just sit it out all gun season, and just keep an eye on your place. Don't fret. Remember, God's in charge. In this whole thing, I don't really have an answer for you, but a guy that has 2,000 acres that he can hunt, 1,500 to 2,000 acres that he can hunt, I don't have one deer that I would actively shoot or know where a shooter is. So, Misery loves company. I appreciate the call, man. I wish I had a really clear answer for you, but it's as clear as mud. Just know that you're not alone, and know that those 3-year-olds, I got faith that they'll know where to hide.
Yeah, so, we started out the beginning, and even before we started filming, you were feeling a little bit down. Yep. It's been rough, but there's hope. So why don't you kind of paint a picture for what could happen? Maybe you see this giant buck come over the ridge and into your view. So let's get you excited here.
Okay, here's where I got down. I got down because on my list right here, I had the zombie walk. Okay, the zombie walk was real. Everybody saw that. We've established that. Now people are believers. Now people think I am this amazing Kreskin that can predict every day and what to do. So my messages are full of what do I do? What do I do on Wednesday? I don't know what you do on Wednesday. Look at the barometer. Here's what I want you to pay attention to. 30.2. 30.2 on the barometer, okay? If it's 30.2 and above, the deer have a very, very highly likelihood of walking. Also, if you want to download an app that's going to give you a little bit of confidence, I think Adam Hayes and the Red Moon or whatever is a great way to have some confidence. I'm not sponsored by them. I don't use it. I don't have it, but I do know that there is some nice correlation there. So 30.2 and higher on the barometer, just go to your iPhone app and look at your weather, and then go find the barometer and then search through days, look for that. Schedule your days and your hunts around that barometer, 30.2 and rising. Deer for sure going to move, and geese and ducks and fish are going to bite. But the zombie walk was real. Now, success stories like crazy. We've had so many success stories that I would love a place that we could post all these, but man, you just can't post them. Just a ton of stuff. I'm dog tired, and here's one for you. My 61 acres, I just dropped the price of the 61 acres. Ooh. I'm ready to move it. It's under 700,000. Oh my gosh, that's 12 something an acre. There is not a piece of property on the planet that's as good as that 61 acres right now, that you could go in there and hunt for 2 or 3 days and kill 150 bucks and grow better and bigger. There is no place in Illinois like it. If you want any information, I own it, but I'm also a broker in Illinois with Herman Brothers Realty, and you can just look up DeWitt County, 61 acres. It is the best of the best. I have not hunted it all year. I know my neighbor shot a buck that went on it. I don't know if he found it. I don't know if he whatever, but it has not had feet on it all year, and it's only going to get better late in the season. So if you want a piece of property that you can hunt immediately and kill some really nice bucks every year in Illinois, this is a little higher price than the average stuff, but this ain't an average farm. It's going to hold its resale value. So that's what I got going on. The consults, I'm concentrating on the consults because I just don't have a buck to hunt. I do not have one buck to hunt on 1,500 acres on all these farms. I got one that I will hunt named Diamond. I got another one that Aspen saw that that she says is a shooter. She saw it's got a flyer off of its 2. It's a 10-pointer. That would be an awesome deer to get. Maybe Jody will get the big 9-pointer that's 6 years old, get him out of there. But right now, I'm really down in the dumps. But I'm ready to start and identify a new shooter. This is Chris Brackett at the Brackett Show. I am headed out into the wilderness as I find new life and try to find a shooter and try to find the biggest shooter that I can, age and beauty and score and the perfect moment. Because why? They're not going to win. They are not going to win. Find that gusto. Find what you've got that you know where the deer are going to go. This is not the first time that you've hunted this property. This is not the first time that you've been seeking a big giant deer. Play over and over in your brain of what it takes to find where that big buck is going to come off of lockdown, where he's going to stop being locked down, where's he going to feed the first moment that he needs security cover, that might have a few cute girls that he may be able to pick up still. Where is he going to cruise these little cornfields, these little bean fields? Some of the best days are ahead. I'm afraid they're going to get shot in gun season, but I do know that my cover and my food and my farm, because I've done the prep work, because I've designed it, because this is what I do for a living, I make this the best. So as it gets cold, it is getting cold as we speak. As soon as this wind blows out this hot system of low, crappy, rainy nastiness, the temperature is going to plummet. We are going to get 30-degree freezing nights. The does need to feed because they're all pregnant. 60 to 80% of them are all pregnant. They're going to start wanting to feed those babies. They're going to turn on the food bag. The little bucks are going to be chasing the does because they still think they smell good and they smell like they're frenzy and fresh and ready to be bred, but they're just not. The big boys are going to come out, check them once and go, nope, 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 nope. Where's the next one? Nope, nope, nope. And you're going to see them, come into Rattling. They're going to come into, decoys. They are trying to find the last does while licking their wounds. These bucks are so beat up, Chris. Their legs are strained. They've been gored. They've been fighting with all their best friends. There are bucks that we don't know about, that people like me that have running all these cameras do not know about. And there are going to be some mega monsters show up in the next 5 days. Fall's in gun season, but in the next 5 days, Wednesday, Thursday, you're going to see deer pictures. Just as this drops, you're going to see deer pictures at night. If I had to, this is why it's a double-edged sword, Chris, because I really want to save all my deer and I don't want any of my neighbors to hunt. So all the neighbors, shut off the program right now. Everybody that's not a neighbor, you got to hunt Wednesday and Thursday in the morning. I think that these bucks are going to get a little froggy. It's going to be cold for the first time in a really long time. They're going to get caught out in the fields late, and they're going to be doing crazy buck stuff in the morning till about 11 o'clock in the morning and trying to find those last does. And I think you can rattle up some really big deer, and I think you can kill some really big deer Wednesday and Thursday. And then you're going to fall into the slaughterhouse this next weekend. Friday, Saturday, Sunday is gun in Illinois. The Orange Army is going to be out there. We're going to talk about that next on the next episode that we're going to film today. But you got to go bow hunt if you're listening to this Wednesday and Thursday. Remember, Chris, what trumps all when it comes to deer hunting? Weather. It's all weather.
It's always weather.
Always weather. All of our moods have to do it. The other day when it was raining at 65, I was just a bear. I don't want to do anything. The pressure, your head, high pressure system, cold weather. Whew, you better be prepared. You better go to your good stuff, and you better go shoot your bow. A bunch of you jackwagons haven't shot your bow since the beginning of the season.
Wouldn't be able to draw your bow.
Yeah, you owe it to the deer, man. Go recheck your stuff before you go out. Go take 5-10 shots. Just go out there cold, sit on a bucket, whatever you got to do. Get a couple field points with your Luminox and everything. Take a shot. Take a shot on a 3D target. Go check your bow over because You owe it to the animal to make the best shot you can. And
Let's
I know
go.
a bunch of jack wagons out there, even with your crossbows or whatever, most of them, if you haven't replaced your string on these Raven crossbows and these dangerous little bombs that you're holding in your hands, change your string. It's only going to move your target, your sight picture over a little bit. Go change that thing. Go to Presley Outdoors. Go to one of these places. Change that over and re-sight that bow in. You owe it to yourself because your big one, if you haven't had the opportunity yet, I've killed a really nice one that most people would love to kill, but I'm waiting for the big fancy one. And I shoot my bow every other day, even a couple shots to make sure I'm on, and to make sure that I didn't bump something or didn't cut a strand walking through the woods. I'm making sure that all that's on because I know, and I'm back in it. I got to convince myself I'm back in it. I'm going to keep hunting. I had new bucks. I had a new buck show up on my camera right now in my front yard, eating corn right by the cornfield and by the greens in the front yard. Never seen him before.
There you go.
He just happened. So life can change like that. Don't get down. I know our neighbors killed all of our deer. Hopefully they're done hunting for the year and it's our turn. So all of us that haven't killed, that are in the neighbor killed my deer, it's in the freezer. May God bless us with a better opportunity and a better reason to go out there and hunt. I went the other day, Chris. I'm going to end with this note. I went the other day, yesterday. It was 65 degrees. I wore my light leather, yellow leather. I went and sat.
You wore your light leather
weather clothing, and I sat on the top of the ridge where I killed my buck the other day, high above everything on my property. Rainy, spitty, east wind, hot, and I just looked around my farm and thought, you know what? I get caught up in antlers just too dang much. I flippin' love this farm. I started looking around and it was 65 degrees and man, the leaves were just kind of, with that rain, it kind of makes them fall off, a little bit, and they were just all falling and it was kind of dewy out, wet and rainy. And I just got a little froggy. And I thought, this is beautiful and I better get ready and enjoy this because it's going to get real cold and I'm a food plotter. And guys, the food easy for me to say, the food plotter's time to shine is right now. All the work we did for beans and corn and sorghum and greens and peas and brassicas and all that stuff, our time is about ready to shine. Deer that the people don't even know about are about ready to show up, and we're going to hunt them over our food.
Let's go.
That's good. That's good to go for me. That's episode 16, man. I hope we keep people entertained. I think they love the show a lot. I mean, we're kind of climbing up the ranks every once in a while.
We are. We're in the top 20, up to 12.
We're up to 12
in the U.S. Yeah, podcast. So we're getting there. So keep listening. Keep checking it out.
Keep checking it out. Tell your friends.
And next time, Chris will wear his light leather
weather clothing, and I'm gonna be practicing shooting my bow.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Yep. Thanks, guys. This is episode 16, The Brackett Show.